Dad said that his son is just the bastard of the family. My 9-year-old nephew's high-pitched laughter cut through the air in the dining room like a knife, followed by the approving laughter of the adults around the Christmas table. I was holding my fork halfway to my mouth when the words hit me like a punch in the chest. My 8-year-old son, Tyler, stopped chewing and looked at me with those big, confused eyes he inherited from his mother. The same expression she used to make when she didn't understand why people were cruel for no reason. "Is it true, Uncle Matt?" Tyler asked quietly, his voice barely audible over the laughter that continued to echo around the room. I looked around the table. My brother Kevin smiled proudly at his son, as if he had just recited a poem. My sister-in-law Jennifer covered her mouth, pretending to hide her laughter. My parents continued eating as if nothing had happened, avoiding my gaze completely. No one corrected the child. No one said a word. My name is Matt, and at 32, I discovered that the family I had been supporting financially for 3 years considered my son a deadweight on the family tree. Since my wife Sarah died in a car accident, I became the family's personal bank. I paid my parents' mortgage when Dad lost his job. I covered my nephew's private school tuition when Kevin was fired from his third company in 2 years. I financed Jennifer's constant emergencies, who had a knack for turning wants into urgent needs. They would call me crying, begging, promising it was the last time. And I always paid, because they were family. Because Tyler needed cousins, grandparents, a support network after losing his mother so young. But now, sitting at this table decorated with red napkins and holly arrangements that probably cost more than my rent, I finally understood my place in this family. I was the invisible provider. The sucker uncle who paid the bills and quietly disappeared when he was no longer needed. And my son? Well, apparently he was just the bastard I brought along to ruin their perfect Christmas. "Tyler, finish your food," I muttered, placing my hand on his shoulder. "We're leaving in 5 minutes." Kevin finally stopped laughing. "Oh, come on, Matt. It was just a joke. You've always been too sensitive." Too sensitive. As if I were the problem for not finding it funny when a 9-year-old humiliated my orphaned son in front of the whole family. I took Tyler's coat from the back of the chair and helped him put it on. His hands were shaking a little, but he didn't cry. My strong boy, always trying not to show when words hurt. "Seriously, Matt," Jennifer said, wiping tears of laughter from her eyes. "Are you really leaving because of this? It's Christmas." I looked at her, then at Kevin, then at my parents, who finally looked up from their plates. 3 generations of people I kept financially stable, looking at me as if I were the crazy one in the situation. "Yeah," I replied, taking Tyler's hand. "It's Christmas." We walked to the door without a word of goodbye. No one followed us. No one tried to apologize. I could hear the conversation returning to normal even before we closed the door behind us. In the car, Tyler was quiet for a few blocks. Then he asked, "Dad, what's a bastard?" I stopped at the traffic light and took a deep breath. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that the family who should love him sees him as a burden? How do you say that the money I gave them every month apparently didn't buy basic respect? "It's a word people use when they want to hurt others," I explained. "And it has nothing to do with you, champ. Nothing at all." He nodded, satisfied with the simple answer. But I knew that innocent question planted a seed of doubt that would grow over time. A wound that shouldn't exist. As I drove through the streets lit up with Christmas decorations, a strange feeling began to form in my chest. It wasn't sadness or anger, as I expected. It was something colder, more calculated. Relief. Because I had finally seen the mask slip. I finally knew exactly where I stood. And if you're wondering how this story of humiliation turned into the biggest life lesson my family ever received, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Because what happened in the next 48 hours completely changed who was in control of this family dynamic. My phone rang as we were pulling up to the house. It was a message from Dad: "Don't forget to transfer the mortgage money tomorrow. First payment of the year is due on Monday." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed my reply, "We'll see." They didn't know it yet, but the family's personal bank had just declared bankruptcy. That message from my dad burned into my phone screen as I made hot chocolate for Tyler. "Don't forget to transfer the mortgage money tomorrow." As if I were an ATM programmed to dispense cash on demand. For 3 years, since Sarah died, I had become the financial savior of this dysfunctional family. It started small, as it always does. An emergency here, a hardship there. Dad lost his job at 58, and suddenly the mortgage on the house where I grew up was in jeopardy. It's just until I get back on my feet, son, he said at the time, in that broken voice that reminded me of when I was a kid and he seemed invincible. So I paid it. $550 a month, every month, for 2 years. Even when it meant Tyler and I ate macaroni and cheese for dinner 5 nights a week. Then came Kevin. My older brother, who always had a knack for turning opportunities into disasters. He lost his job at the dealership because he was caught sleeping in the warehouse. Jennifer was pregnant with their second child, and they couldn't afford my nephew's private school. Matt, you know education is everything, Jennifer pleaded, strategic tears glistening in her eyes. We can't put him in public school. You understand, right? After everything you went through with Tyler. The comparison was subtle but lethal, implying that I, as an inexperienced widower, would surely understand the importance of giving children the best. I signed a check for $1,200 that same day. That was 8 months ago. Since then, the temporary emergency has turned into a fixed monthly expense. And Jennifer? Well, Jennifer had a knack for finding emergencies. The car always broke down the day before the credit card bill was due. The washing machine mysteriously exploded when she wanted to remodel the kitchen. The air conditioner broke down just when she decided the family deserved a vacation. You won't believe the bad luck we're having, she would say, in that sweet voice I had learned to recognize as the harbinger of yet another request for money. And I always paid. Because we were family. Because Tyler needed cousins. Because I felt guilty for having life insurance when Sarah died, while they struggled every day to survive. But today, watching my 8-year-old son stir his hot chocolate in silence, the confused expression still etched on his face, I finally saw the truth. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as a source of income. And my son? My son was just an inconvenient obstacle between them and my money. Daddy, Tyler said softly, interrupting my thoughts. Why did Cousin Jake say that? I took a deep breath. How could I explain that my brother, probably drunk after the Christmas lunch I helped pay for, had filled his 9-year-old son's head with pure poison? How could I tell him that the family that was supposed to protect him saw him as dead weight? Sometimes people say bad things when they're angry or confused, I murmured, running my hand through his hair. It doesn't mean it's true. Tyler nodded, but I saw the doubt setting in. That little seed of insecurity that would grow and turn into an open wound if I didn't do something. My phone rang again. This time it was Kevin. Hey little bro, his voice was slurred, confirming my suspicion about the alcohol. Don't be mad at Jake, okay? Kids say all kinds of things. But seriously, I need to talk to you about something. Jennifer is worried about the January bills. It's Christmas, Kevin. I know. But you know how it is. The holidays are expensive, and with Jake growing up, the expenses only increase. We were thinking, maybe you could help out a little more? Just until March. I promise. Just until March. Like Dad's, just until I get back on my feet, which had already lasted 2 years. Like Jennifer's, just until the situation improves, which was renewed every month. I'll think about it, I replied. Oh great. I knew I could count on you. Jennifer will be relieved. And man, I'm sorry about whatever happened today. You know how family is, right? Sometimes we say things without thinking. I hung up without saying goodbye. Family. They loved to use that word when they needed something. But where was family when my son was humiliated in front of everyone? Where was it when Tyler needed support, love, protection? I sat on the couch next to him and began to piece together the clues I had ignored for so long. The subtle comments about Tyler not looking like that side of the family. The jokes about him being too quiet, too sensitive. The way they always found excuses not to include him in his cousin's activities. They tolerated my son because they tolerated me. And they tolerated me because I paid their bills. I grabbed my laptop and opened the spreadsheet I kept religiously. 3 years of transfers, payments, loans that were never repaid. The total made me sick. $23,460. $23,000 that I could have used to give my son a better life. To set up an education fund. To take him on the vacations he deserved. To buy the house with a backyard he always asked for. Instead, I financed the arrogance of people who saw my generosity as weakness and my grief as opportunity. Tyler fell asleep on the couch while we watched cartoons. I carried him to his room and laid him on his bed, tucking the blanket around his small shoulders. In the dark, he seemed even more fragile, more vulnerable. I went back to the living room and my phone was full of messages. Jennifer, Kevin told me you guys talked. You're an angel, Matt. Without you, I don't know what we'd do. Mom, I hope you weren't upset by Jake's joke. Kids, right? Kisses. Dad, son, can you make the transfer today? The bank closes Monday morning for maintenance and I don't want any delays. I read each message 3 times. The naturalness with which they treated what had happened. The ease with which they minimized my son's pain. The nerve of asking me for money a few hours after humiliating my family. They really thought I would swallow it all silently, as I always did. But this time was different. This time, they had messed with Tyler. I opened my banking app and started reviewing all the automatic bills, all the scheduled debits, all the financial commitments I had made to them over the years. They didn't know it yet, but the family's personal bank account was about to undergo a complete audit. And when I finished analyzing every penny, every broken promise, every moment of disrespect disguised as innocent fun, they would discover that messing with my son was the most expensive mistake of their lives. Tyler stirred in his room, muttering something in his sleep. I went in and found him smiling, immersed in some good dream. My strong little boy, who didn't deserve to carry the wounds that a toxic family was trying to inflict on him. I went back to my laptop with crystal clarity about what I needed to do. It wouldn't be revenge. It would be justice. And education. Because they were about to learn a very expensive lesson about the difference between a real family and parasites with shared DNA. Monday arrived with an avalanche of messages. Kevin, Matt bro, I urgently need $500. Jennifer is pregnant again and the doctor wants some expensive tests. Jennifer, hi brother-in-law. Happy New Year. Can you help out with $1,000? Jake wants to join the baseball team and the registration fee is due today. Dad, son, the bank called. The transfer didn't go through. Can you take care of it today? They're threatening to foreclose. Mom, Matt, honey, did you forget to send your dad the money? He's really nervous. You know how sensitive he is. 8 messages before 9 in the morning. As if nothing had happened at Christmas. As if my son hadn't been humiliated in front of the whole family 48 hours ago. Tyler was eating breakfast, stirring his cereal in his milk without much appetite. Since Sunday, he had been quieter, more introspective. He asked 3 times if everything was okay between us, if he had done something wrong. Dad, he said quietly, is Cousin Jake ever coming over? The question broke my heart. My 8-year-old son, trying to process why his cousin of the same age treated him that way, still hoping things could be fixed. I don't know, champ, I replied, running my hand through his hair. It depends on how people behave. My phone rang. Kevin, of course. Matt, man, you didn't answer my messages. I'm desperate here. Jennifer is bleeding a little, and the doctor wants to do an ultrasound today. Can you make a PIX transfer now? Kevin, about what happened at Christmas. Oh, that? Forget it. Bro Jake is a kid, he says anything. But now it's serious. I need the money today. $500. Are you in or out? $500. As if it were pocket change. As if I were an ATM operating 24 hours a day for his convenience. I'll think about it, I replied. Think about it? Matt, it's my pregnant wife. It's your nephew who's at risk. I hung up. 2 hours later, Jennifer called, crying. Matt, Kevin told me you don't want to help. How can you be so cruel? It's your own flesh and blood. My own flesh and blood. Funny how they always remembered family ties when they needed money, but completely forgot about them when it came to respecting my son. Jennifer, let's talk about what Jake said on Sunday. That? Matt, please. It was child's play. You're being too dramatic. Look, I swear I'll talk to him, okay? But right now I need this help. I promise it's the last time. The last time. The same promise she had made every month for the past 8 months. I hung up again. That's when my phone rang with a number I hadn't seen in a long time. Grandma Ruth. Matthew, my dear, her voice sounded warm and familiar. How are you and Tyler? Grandma Ruth was my mother's mother, but they had fallen out years ago over money. Ironically, Mom always complained that Grandma was too controlling with the family finances. We're fine, Grandma. How did you know I needed to hear your voice today? She laughed, that hoarse laugh of someone who smoked for 40 years and quit at 70. An old woman's intuition, dear. And also because I got a very interesting call from your mother yesterday. She said you're going through a difficult phase, and that maybe I could talk to you about something. My blood ran cold. Did she ask you to convince me to keep supporting everyone else's lives while they walk all over you and my great-grandson? That's exactly what she asked. The relief of having someone who saw the situation clearly was overwhelming. Grandma, I don't know what to do anymore. I know exactly what you need to do, Matthew. You need to stop being a bank and go back to being a man. Come over to my house this afternoon. Bring Tyler. I have something to show you. 2 hours later, I was driving down the country road that led to Grandma Ruth's house. Tyler was asleep in the back seat, still emotionally exhausted from the weekend's events. Her house was an old wooden building with a large porch and a well-kept garden. Grandma Ruth was waiting for us at the door, dressed all in black as usual, her white hair tied back in a perfect bun. My beautiful grandson, she cried when Tyler got out of the car, her face lighting up for the first time in days. Inside the house, she served us hot chocolate and homemade cookies. Tyler told her about school, about the drawings he was making, about the book he was reading. Grandma Ruth listened to him with all the attention in the world, asking questions, laughing at his jokes. After Tyler went to play with the cats in the yard, she took me to her office. Sit down, Matthew, she said, pointing to a leather armchair. Let's talk about this situation. For an hour, I told her everything. Every penny I had given them. Every fabricated emergency. Every broken promise. Every time they had minimized my concerns or ignored Tyler's needs. She listened quietly, just nodding her head at times. Matthew, she said finally, do you know the story of my marriage to your grandfather? I shook my head. I married him in 1952. He was a mechanic, I was a teacher. In the early years, his family treated me like an intruder. They said I wasn't good enough, that I was only after his money. But Grandpa didn't have any money. Exactly. But I did. An inheritance from my father. And guess who showed up every week asking for loans? The same family that despised me in public. What did you do? She smiled, a smile that reminded me where I got my stubbornness from. I cut them all off. All at once. No warning, no explanation. And you know what happened? Within 6 months, they were begging to make amends. Not out of love, Matthew. Out of necessity. And then I set rules. Anyone who wanted my help had to treat me with respect. Anyone who wanted my money had to prove they deserved it. And do you know how many times I had to lend money for real emergencies after that? How many? 0. Because when people know they can't manipulate you, they stop creating fake emergencies. Tyler came back from the backyard with one of the cats in his arms, smiling from ear to ear. Grandma Ruth, can I take Garfield home? Garfield lives here, sweetie. But you can visit him whenever you want. She looked at me with a serious expression. Matthew, you have 2 options. Continue being a doormat and teach Tyler that this is how real men behave. Or show him that dignity is non-negotiable. On the way home, Tyler asked, Dad, why is Grandma Ruth different from Grandpa and Grandma? What do you mean, champ? She really listens to me. And she doesn't look at her phone while I'm talking. That night, after putting Tyler to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open. 23 unanswered messages from various family members. All demanding, threatening. The last one was from Dad. Matthew, if you don't transfer the money tomorrow, we'll lose the house. Is that what you want? To leave your parents on the street? I took a deep breath and started typing my reply. As of today, all loans and financial assistance are cancelled. Anyone who wants to talk to me about what happened at Christmas with Tyler can call me. Anyone who wants to talk about money can go to a bank. I sent the same message to all of them. Within 5 minutes, My phone was ringing non-stop. I turned it off and put it on silent mode. For the first time in 3 years, I slept without that knot in my stomach that comes from carrying the financial weight of people who show no gratitude. They didn't know it yet, but they had just discovered the difference between a son desperate for approval and a father determined to protect his son from toxic people. And what happened when they realized that the family's personal bank had closed for good? Well, that changed the game completely. The next morning, I woke up to 27 missed calls. 27. Dad had called 15 times between midnight and 5 in the morning. Kevin 9 times. Jennifer 3 times. Even my Aunt Louise, who hadn't spoken to me in 2 years, had tried to call. I made breakfast for Tyler in absolute silence, ignoring every notification that came in. My son ate his cereal while watching my face, trying to decipher my mood. "Dad, are you okay?" "I'm great, champ. Better than I've been in a long time." And it was true. For the first time in 3 years, I woke up without that feeling of dread in my stomach. Without wondering who would call me begging for money today. Without carrying the burden of supporting adults who behaved like parasites. At 8 in the morning, Jennifer showed up at my door. She was wearing no makeup, her hair was messy, and she was still in her bathrobe. I saw her car parked crookedly on my driveway, as if she had braked suddenly. "Matt, for God's sake, answer the phone," she yelled as soon as I opened the door. "Kevin is desperate. Dad is having chest pains. You can't do this to us." "Jennifer, it's 8 in the morning." "I know what time it is," she yelled, and I saw Tyler appear behind me, hugging his teddy bear. "You need to undo this madness right now. Transfer the money to Dad. Kevin needs to pay the doctor today. You can't just abandon us like this." I stared at her for a long moment. Jennifer, who drove here at 8 in the morning in her bathrobe to demand money from me. Jennifer, who was more desperate for bank transfers than concerned about her own son's well-being after he humiliated an 8-year-old child. "Jennifer, did you come here to apologize for what Jake said on Sunday?" She blinked, confused, as if the question didn't make sense. "Matt, forget that nonsense. Kids say all kinds of things. The important thing right now is to resolve the financial situation. Dad could lose the house today if you don't transfer the money." "I understand." I slammed the door in her face. She yelled for another 10 minutes outside, pounding on the door, until a neighbor threatened to call the police. I heard her speed away in her car, probably burning rubber. Tyler looked at me with wide eyes. "Dad, why was Aunt Jennifer yelling?" "Because some people only know how to communicate that way when they don't get what they want, champ." 2 hours later, Kevin showed up. This time, he brought Jake with him. I opened the door and found my brother holding his 9-year-old son by the shoulder, as if to use him as a human shield. "Go on, Jake," Kevin said, pushing the boy forward. "Tell Uncle Matt what we rehearsed." Jake looked at me with a sour expression, clearly upset about being there. "Sorry for calling Tyler a bastard," he muttered, without any sincerity. "Can I go inside and play video games now?" Kevin smiled, as if we had just witnessed a moment of profound emotional growth. "There you go, Matt." Jake apologized. "Now let's take care of the grown-up stuff. Jennifer told me you're making a big deal out of a kid's joke. I need $1,500 today. Jennifer needs another $500. And Dad could really lose the house." I looked at Jake, who was shifting from one foot to the other, clearly bored. I looked at Kevin, who had the nerve to show up at my door demanding $2,000 after using his own son to fabricate a fake apology. "Jake," I said, bending down to his level, "do you know why you're apologizing?" He shrugged. "Dad said you were upset." "And do you understand why I was upset?" "I don't know. You always get upset over silly things." Kevin laughed, as if this were adorable. Kids, right? They speak the truth without a filter. It was at that moment that something crystallized in my mind. Kevin wasn't trying to teach his son about empathy or respect. He was trying to manipulate the situation to get money. The apology was just a bureaucratic formality he needed to fulfill to return to the status quo. "Kevin," I said, standing up. "Jake doesn't know why he's apologizing because you didn't explain why it was wrong. You didn't tell him that hurting other people is unacceptable. You told him to come here and say some magic words so Uncle Matt would go back to being the family bank." Matt, man, don't complicate things. Jake is a kid, he'll learn with time. The important thing now is that you're not getting another penny from me. Not today, not ever. Kevin's smile disappeared. Matt, you can't be serious. I'm as serious as a heart attack. Dad could lose the house. Dad is 72 years old, Kevin. He had his whole life to prepare for retirement. The fact that he didn't prepare is not my problem. What about Jennifer? She's pregnant. Jennifer has a husband. She can cover emergencies with her own husband. What about me? Matt, I'm your brother. You're a 34-year-old man who teaches his son to disrespect orphan children and then uses that same son to manipulate the family for money. You're not my brother. You're a stranger who shares my DNA. Kevin turned red. Jake started to cry, feeling the tension in the air. You're going to regret this, Matt. When Dad has a heart attack from all the stress, when Jennifer loses the baby from worrying so much, when my son grows up without private school, you'll regret it. The only thing I'll regret is not doing this 3 years ago. They left. Kevin put Jake in the car more forcefully than necessary, cursing under his breath as he started the engine. That afternoon, I called Grandma Ruth. How was your first morning of freedom, Matthew? I told her about Jennifer, about Kevin, about Jake being used as a puppet for a fake apology. And how did you feel about refusing the money? Like I had taken a 50-pound backpack off my back. She laughed. Perfect. Now comes the interesting part. They're going to try to break you psychologically before accepting that the bank is closed. If you're enjoying this journey of transformation, subscribe to the channel because what lies ahead will be a masterclass in family manipulation being exposed. What do you mean? Matthew, do you think it's a coincidence that your mother called me yesterday? Do you think they don't have a plan to change your mind? I felt a chill in my stomach. What kind of plan? The kind that involves Tyler. The kind that will try to use your son as emotional leverage to force you back into being their provider. That night, after putting Tyler to bed, I sat on the couch and mentally reviewed the last 3 years. Every sudden emergency. Every crisis that appeared just when I was starting to save money for myself and Tyler. Every time they made me feel guilty for being blessed with life insurance, while they struggled to survive. I opened my laptop and started doing something I should have done a long time ago, a complete audit of all the transfers I had made to them. Not just the amounts, but the dates, the justifications, the patterns. What I discovered made me sick. In 3 years, I had transferred $23,460 to them. But it wasn't just the amount. It was the timing. Every one of Jennifer's emergencies happened exactly 1 week after my paycheck hit my account. Every one of Dad's health crises coincided with times of the year when I received bonuses at work. They weren't experiencing emergencies. They were monitoring me financially and fabricating crises to extract as much money as possible. And the icing on the cake? While I was financing their difficulties, Kevin was posting photos of expensive dinners on Facebook. Jennifer was showing off designer handbags on Instagram. Dad had joined a premium golf club. They were living beyond their means with my money. And when the money ran out, they would invent a new emergency to extort more from me. Tyler stirred in his room, muttering something in his sleep. I went over and found him smiling, immersed in some good dream. My son was sleeping peacefully while I finally saw the full extent of how my family was using me. And using him, by extension. I went back to my laptop with crystal clarity about what I needed to do. It wouldn't just be about cutting off the money. It would be about exposing the whole scheme. Because they were right about one thing, I did have resources they didn't know about. Resources that went beyond money. And if they thought they could use Tyler as leverage to break me psychologically, they were about to find out that messing with my son was the biggest strategic mistake of their lives. The war hadn't even started yet. On Wednesday morning, the storm finally broke. I woke up to the sound of someone pounding on my door at 6:30 a.m. It wasn't Jennifer this time. It was Dad. Matthew. Open that door right now. Tyler woke up scared in his room. I went there first, calmed him down, told him it was just Grandpa getting nervous about adult stuff, and that everything would be fine. Stay in your room, champ. Dad will take care of this in a minute. When I opened the door, I found my father with his face red with anger, holding a crumpled envelope in his hand. "What is this?" he yelled, waving the paper in my face. It was a foreclosure notice. The bank was repossessing the house because the December and January payments hadn't been made. "It's exactly what it looks like, Dad. You said you would transfer the money." "No, I said you would get what you deserved. And this is what you deserve." He turned purple with rage. "You son of a bitch. You're going to leave your own parents on the street. You let my son be humiliated at your dinner table and laughed at the situation. So yes, I will. It was just a joke. For you, maybe. For Tyler, it was confirmation that the family he thought loved him actually sees him as a burden." Dad tried to force his way into my house. I slammed the door in his face and called the police. 20 minutes later, 2 officers were taking him away for disturbing the peace and attempted home invasion. At 10 in the morning, Kevin called. "Matt, man, what the hell is this? Dad got arrested." "Kevin, I'm going to explain this to you very slowly. The 3 of you have spent the last 3 years using me as your personal bank while treating my son like trash. That's over. Forever. Matt, listen." "No, Kevin. You listen. Last night I reviewed all the transfers I made to you. $23,460 in 3 years. Meanwhile, you were posting photos of expensive restaurants on Facebook. Jennifer was showing off designer handbags on Instagram. Dad joined a golf club. Silence on the other end. You weren't experiencing emergencies. You were extorting me to maintain a lifestyle you can't afford." "Matt, it's not like that." "Kevin, every one of Jennifer's emergencies happened a week after my paycheck came in. All of Dad's health crises coincided with times when I received bonuses. You were monitoring me financially." Another long silence. "And you know what else I found out? That you posted these luxury photos on the same day you sent me messages begging for money for emergencies." "Matt. I have screenshots of everything, Kevin. From Jennifer's Instagram showing the $2,000 handbag she bought on the same day she asked me to lend her $500 for a medical emergency. From your Facebook showing the $150 dinner the same week you said Jake had nothing to eat." Kevin hung up. At 2 in the afternoon, my phone rang. It was Grandma Ruth. "Matthew, your mother just called me." "What did she want?" "She wanted me to talk to you about forgiving the family and thinking about Tyler, who needs his grandparents." "And what did you say?" "I said she had 3 years to think about Tyler and chose not to. Now it's too late." "There's more to it than that, Grandma. They're not going to give up just because the money's gone." "I know, dear. That's why I'm calling. Your mother mentioned that they're thinking about, as she put it, taking legal action to protect Tyler." My blood ran cold. "What kind of legal action?" "They want to claim that you're being negligent by cutting off financial support for the family. That Tyler is suffering because you're punishing the whole family for an innocent prank. They want to try to take custody of Tyler?" "That's exactly what they want, Matthew." I felt anger I had never felt in my life. They really thought they could humiliate my son and then use the legal system to take him away from me when I stopped financing their lifestyle. "Grandma, I need your help. Tell me what you need. Do you know any good lawyers?" "I know the best in the area. And he owes me a few favors." At 5 in the afternoon, I was in the office of Robert Chun, a family law attorney whom Grandma Ruth had known for 20 years. "Matthew," he said after hearing the whole story, "they don't have a case. You have a stable job, adequate housing, you're providing for all of Tyler's needs. The fact that you stopped giving money to adult relatives does not constitute neglect. But they're going to try anyway?" "Probably. Desperate people do desperate things. But I have a better idea." He leaned across the desk. "How about we file a lawsuit against them first?" "What do you mean?" "Family extortion. Harassment. Attempted parental alienation. All well documented with your bank transfers, messages, and Sunday's incident. Is that possible? Matthew, you have 3 years of evidence of a coordinated scheme to extract money through emotional blackmail. And now they're threatening to use your son as a weapon to continue extorting you. It's not just possible, it's a slam dunk." That night, after putting Tyler to bed, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of coffee and the contract Robert Chun had prepared. It wasn't just about defending myself. It was about sending a clear message. Messing with my son would have devastating legal and financial consequences. I signed the papers. The next morning, a bailiff delivered notices to my parents, Kevin and Jennifer. All of them were being sued simultaneously for family extortion, harassment, and attempted parental alienation. The amount of damages requested? Exactly $23,460. Every penny they had extorted from me over the past 3 years. My phone exploded with calls. No one was demanding money anymore. Now they were begging to settle everything within the family. But it was too late for family resolutions. They had humiliated an 8-year-old child and then tried to use that same child as a weapon to continue exploiting me. Now they were going to find out that there is a difference between a man desperate for family approval and a father willing to do anything to protect his child. And if you think this family manipulation story can't get any more intense, subscribe to the channel, because what happened when they realized they were no longer dealing with Nice Matt was a masterclass in consequences they will never forget. The real war was just beginning. And this time, I wasn't fighting alone. 6 months later, the storm had completely passed. The lawsuit we filed against them resulted in a landslide victory. Kevin was ordered to pay $15,000 in punitive damages. Jennifer had to return $8,500 she had borrowed over the years. Mom and Dad lost their house, just as I had warned. But the real victory wasn't the money. Tyler was thriving. Without the constant toxicity of his family, he became more confident, more cheerful. He started asking questions about his mother, about our history together. Questions he never asked when he was worried about being accepted by people who saw him as a burden. "Dad," he said to me one morning, "thank you for protecting me from those bad people." An 8-year-old shouldn't have to thank you for basic protection. But the fact that he recognized the difference showed me that I had made the right decision. Grandma Ruth became our real family. Every Sunday, Tyler and I have lunch at her house. She teaches him to play chess and tells him stories about standing up to people who try to put you down. "Strength isn't about yelling louder," she told Tyler last week. "It's about knowing when to speak and when to act." Kevin tried to reconcile 3 times. Always with the same pattern, empty apologies followed by subtle requests for money. The last time, he brought Jake along again, trying to use the same emotional strategy. "Jake wants to get to know his cousin Tyler better," he said. "Jake had his chance," I replied. "And you taught him to waste it." Jennifer moved to another state after the divorce. Apparently, being married to a man sued for family extortion wasn't the lifestyle she wanted to project on Instagram. My parents? They're living in a small apartment, supported by Social Security. Dad got a part-time job at 72. Mom had to cancel her golf club membership. They sent me a Christmas card. They didn't ask for money. They just wrote, "We miss you." Missing someone is different from regretting. Missing is about losing a resource. Regret would be about recognizing that they mistreated an innocent child. Tyler opened a savings account with the money we recovered in the lawsuit. "For college," he said proudly. I opened a different account. For therapy, for travel, for experiences that build positive memories. For everything a child needs besides money. The most important lesson I learned? Family isn't about DNA. It's about who shows up when you need them and who protects your children when they're vulnerable. Tyler has a family now. Small but real. Grandma Ruth, who loves him unconditionally. Me, who protects him unconditionally. And the memory of his mother, who will love him forever. If this story of transformation touched you, subscribe to the channel. Because sometimes you have to lose the family you were born into to find the family you deserve. And for those who think that being firm with family boundaries is cruel, it's not. Cruelty is allowing adults to use children as emotional weapons. Today Tyler is 9 years old. When someone asks him about his grandparents, he replies, "I have Grandma Ruth. She's the best grandma in the world." And when Kevin or Jennifer appear on his social media, he simply asks, "Dad, who are these people?" The best revenge wasn't the lawsuit. It was raising a son who doesn't even remember why he should be afraid of being rejected.